This podcast is brought to you by DABA, your most comprehensive platform for investing in African stocks, bonds, and managed funds. You can download the DABA app on your favorite Google and Apple app stores. Today, we're recapping the week of November 10th to 14th. Even though BRVM indices slipped slightly, some stocks stood out, and trading activity shows confidence remains strong. On the equities market, the 45th trading week on the Bourse Régionale des Valeurs Mobilières was marked by a downward trend, but no need to panic. This mainly reflects profit-taking after several weeks of growth. In short, investors hit pause after a strong run. The BRVM Composite Index closed at 336.25 points, down about 1.8%. The BRVM 30 Index, which groups the top capitalizations, fell 2.3% to 163.92 points. Meanwhile, the BRVM Prestige Index, which includes premium-listed stocks, ended at 140.16 points, down 2.44%. In simple terms, the week reflected consolidation, a natural phase for any market that's been climbing. This kind of pause often sets the stage for medium-term opportunities. And yet, not everything was in the red. Trading data actually revealed renewed interest from investors in large-cap stocks. The total value of transactions jumped 32.64%, reaching 9,105 billion francs CFA, compared to 7,392 billion the previous week. This means investors focused on strong, high-value companies despite a small dip in trading volume, which fell to 8.08 million shares, down from 8.4 million previously. This behavior shows that even when the market slows, activity doesn't disappear. Investors simply rotate their portfolios, moving funds into companies with strong fundamentals rather than exiting the market altogether. Now, let's talk about the week's winners. At the top of the list, NEI-CEDA surged 23.03%, closing at 1,015 francs CFA, a strong performance for a company in the publishing sector, which tends to follow consumer spending and the education cycle across the region. Next came Africa Global Logistics Côte d'Ivoire, formerly Bolloré Africa Logistics, which climbed 15.65% to 1,100 francs CFA. That shows growing investor confidence in port and logistics activities, key sectors for West African economies. Finally, Solibra Côte d'Ivoire, the beverage leader, gained 6.64% to 24,500 francs CFA, a steady rise that reflects stable consumption in the food and beverage sector, especially with the festive season approaching. These performances highlight an important point. Even in a cautious market, companies positioned in essential sectors, education, logistics, and consumer goods, continue to attract investor capital. For investors, that means looking beyond index movements and focusing on company fundamentals. On the flip side, the week was tougher for some industrial players. Burnaby Côte d'Ivoire dropped 32.05%, ending at 1,325 francs CFA. This sharp decline followed the company's half-year results, showing a 63% drop in net profit. Unsurprisingly, investors reacted by selling off the stock. Safka Côte d'Ivoire also fell 31.83% to 2,270 francs CFA, while CFOYO Côte d'Ivoire lost 31.82%, ending at 1,575 francs CFA. These corrections may look steep, but they're not unusual. After several months of gains, companies often face adjustments tied to earnings announcements or profit-taking. Moving to the bond market, the tone was more cautious. Total market capitalization decreased 1.67%, settling around 10,709 billion francs CFA, down from 10,990 billion the previous week. Trading also slowed. About 63,000 bonds were exchanged for a total of 560 million francs CFA, compared to over 500,000 bonds traded the previous week worth more than 5 billion francs CFA. The standout performer this week was the State of Senegal 10-year bond, with a 6.65% coupon, maturing between 2024 and 2034. This single issue accounted for 63% of all bonds traded, roughly 40,000 bonds for a total of 399 million francs CFA. In other words, this bond remains a pillar of the regional debt market. It continues to attract investors thanks to its stable yield and the reliability of the Senegalese government as an issuer. Its weekly turnover rate stood at 0.79%, confirming its status as a benchmark instrument for fixed-income investors. So, what does all this mean? First, the slight decline in indices isn't necessarily bad news. It reflects a normal consolidation in a mature market, a moment where investors reassess positions and prepare for the next move. For savvy investors, that often creates great entry points. Second, the 32% jump in total transaction value shows that investor confidence remains intact. Money is not leaving the market, it's being reallocated to quality assets. Finally, even with a softer week on the bond market, demand for sovereign debt remains strong, particularly for stable, long-term bonds like the 10-year Senegal issue. For investors, this period should be seen as a time to observe, rebalance, and plan ahead. Small pullbacks like this one often present the best opportunities for medium-term positioning. Now, let's look ahead to the new week's opportunities. Analysts have identified several promising sectors to keep an eye on, especially companies with solid financials, transparent governance, and strong visibility. On the bond side, certain sovereign issuances continue to offer attractive yields for those seeking stable income. While we won't name specific stocks here, those are reserved for DABA Pro subscribers. The key takeaway is clear. The market remains full of opportunities. The right approach is to stay disciplined, well-informed, and diversified. If you'd like to go further, receive weekly stock recommendations, exclusive analyses, and benefit from reduced investment fees, subscribe to DABA Pro. With DABA Pro, you don't just follow the markets, you stay ahead of them. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the DABA Markets Talk podcast. We'll be back next week with another update. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating, follow us, and share with friends. Remember, this information is for educational purposes. Always do your own research or consult with a financial advisor before making investment decisions. And download the DABA app on your app store to start investing in African stocks, bonds, and manage portfolios through your phone and find other helpful content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing your financial knowledge.